Today we're going to be talking about 3.4 box and whisker plots. We've been talking about a lot of different ways that you can see how data is spread out, and today that's what the box and whisker plot is going to be, is just another way that you can see or display data. There's quite a few terms that I want you to know about, so I want you to go ahead and write this slide down for me, please. Just like each of the other things that we've learned in Chapter 3, with mean, median, mode, and range, with any kind of a graph, or even with the stem and leaf plot, what do you have to do to the numbers in your data set every single time, guys? Read me the first sentence. Put the numbers in order from least to greatest. So before you do anything else, the box and whisker plot is no different. You're still going to put it in order from least to greatest. Now there's some new terms that I want to teach you about today. Repeat after me. Lower extreme. Lower extreme. What is the lower extreme, guys?
The lowest number.
You can see right there, it's the lowest number. Now there's something that's completely opposite of the lower extreme. It is the upper extreme. Guys, what does the upper extreme tell us?
Highest number.
It's the highest number. So you're going to be trying to find the lowest number and then the highest number in your data set. Now let's look next. This is another new idea here. Everyone say lower quartile.
Lower quartile.
All right. Have you guys heard of the word median before?
Yes.
What is the median?
The middle.
It's the middle number, okay? So all we're going to be doing is we're going to be finding the median, or the middle number, of the lower half of the data. The next thing we're looking for here is the what?
Median.
What is the median?
Middle number.
It's the middle number or the middle value, all right? Another new idea we haven't really talked about before, upper quartile. Read to me what an upper quartile is.
Median of upper half of the data.
The median of the upper half of the data, okay? So for each time we're doing a box and whisker plot, we're looking for 5 points. That's all we want is 5 points. Now read to me what the very last thing tells us to do. After finding these 5 things, make a number line. And that is how you do a box and whisker plot. So let's go ahead and look at this next slide. Write this down for me. Make a box and whisker plot of the data. What is the first thing we have to do? It was in our notes that we just wrote down every single time that we are making a box and whisker plot. What is it, Stephen? Put the numbers in order from least to greatest. Guess what your kind, sweet-hearted teacher has already done for you? This is the one time that they are actually already in order from least to greatest. So you do not need to rewrite that because they're already in order from least to greatest, all right? So now we've got 5 things that we got to figure out. What does LE stand for?
Lower extreme.
Lower extreme. Kyla, what does the lower extreme mean?
The lowest number.
The lowest number. Can you tell by looking at this what the lowest number is?
Yes, 35.
35, all right, guys? So go ahead and write that in. A 35 is the lowest number we have in our data set. Next up, I want us to do the opposite. The opposite of the lower extreme is the what? The upper extreme, not the higher extreme, but the upper extreme. Hannah, what does that upper extreme mean? The highest number. What's the highest number? 100. Next, we're going to find the one directly in the middle because we know how to find the median. Mickey, what does the median mean? The middle number, okay? So as I am looking and trying to find the middle number, I want you guys to underline what the middle number is. Right? As you're looking at this, you can see there are 2 middle numbers. Let's underline them, 60 and 70. When I am writing down what the median is, according to the data and stuff that we've done before, am I allowed to say there's 2 middle numbers? No, I really can't. So my goal is to figure out what number comes in between a 60 and a 70. There's a way we can do that by finding the mean. How do I find the mean?
You
Add them up. So we're going to add these 2. What's 60 plus 70? 130. And then I have to divide by the number of numbers in that data area. There were 2 numbers that we just added. So what do you think 130 divided by 2 is? 65. Okay, now doesn't that make sense? The number that comes in between 60 and 70 is 65. So the middle value of the entire data set is 65. All right? Let's now figure out the LQ. The LQ stands for the what?
Lower quartile.
Lower quartile. Everyone say quartile.
Quartile.
All right, so we're trying to find the lower quartile, or the lower half of the data. What I want us to do right now is cut the data in half. So let's just go ahead, put a line right there dividing the data. So now you can see that to the left of that right there, This is the lower half of the data, all right? Out of all that right there, do you guys know what the median or the middle number of that highlighted area is?
Yes.
What is it?
42.5.
42.5, circle it. And write it down. The LQ, the lower quartile, is 42.5. All right, you don't have to box it in because there was no work that was shown there. We're just slipping in the answer, okay? Now, guess what? Upper quartile. I have to do that same exact thing, but not with the lower half, but the upper half. So now let's look at the upper half of the data. Marcus, what is the median of the upper half of my data? 78. Go ahead and circle it and then write it down. So you just found all the information that you need to be able to make a box and whisker plot. Let's look back at our notes that we wrote from our last screen. What's the very last thing that we wrote down? After you find those 5 things, let's make a number line. So we've got to figure out what the lowest number in our data set that we're going to be plotting is. What's the tiniest number here? 35, okay? We want to go just a little bit lower than 35, but a nice rounded number. What number do you think we should start with?
30.
Let's start with a 30, okay? Now, I think what would be a great idea is to count by tens, okay? You don't want it to be too big or too small. So we're going to count by tens, but I've got to get bigger than 100. So what number should I go up to?
110.
Let's go up to 110. If we're counting by tens, we want to go all the way up to 110. So go ahead and plot the rest of the points here on your number line. Now that we've made our number line, all we have to do is plot the 5 points that we found. So let's start with the lower extreme. CJ, what's the lower extreme?
The lower extreme.
35. I'm going to put a dot and then label 35 underneath it. Maddox, what is my next number in these 5 points?
42.5.
42.5, okay? So we're going to go ahead and plot it the best place that we think and label that it's 42.5 underneath it. Darcy, we've done the lower extreme and the lower quartile. What's the next one I have to plot? The median. What is my median? Not 60 and 70. What one number did we come up with? 65. Okay, that's the middle value, so go ahead and put the 65 there. Deasia, what's next? The upper quartile. What number is that? 78 is correct. And finally, Hannah, what's my last one I need to plot? The upper extreme, and what number is that? 100. Okay, so what I have done now, I have plotted all 5 of my points. But if you notice, my instructions said to make a box and whisker plot. This looks nothing like a box and looks nothing like whiskers, so I'm not done yet. I've got to make a box, and here's what we're going to do. The first thing, I want you to draw a little line straight up and down right through the point of my lower quartile. Now we're going to draw the same kind of line over here on the upper quartile. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw a line there on the median. And now all you have to do is kind of connect those dots. I'm going to make this and turn this into a box. So that's the top half of my box. This is the bottom half of my box. But as you know, we are making box and whisker plots. So what am I missing? Whiskers. Okay, think about a cat. Have you guys seen cat whiskers before? They come off of their face. Think of this right here, kind of like the face, but we got to give it some whiskers. Okay, there's your first whisker right here. It goes from that box over to the lower extreme. Guess where the other whisker goes? To the upper extreme, okay? And now you can think of this, that it looks kind of like a box and whisker plot. Okay, you got nice little eyeballs and a good happy face, all right? You don't need to draw the happy face, all right? But there we have, that is a box and whisker plot. Now what this tells us is that the bulk of our data is right here inside of this box. Yes, I have some extremes out here on that part and out here on this part, but the bulk of my data is right there where the eyeballs of that cat are. Okay, let's go on. We're going to do one more example today. So there's one thing that I've got to do every single time I have a new data set. What is it, guys? Put it in order from least to greatest. What's the first one?
7.5.
7.5. Thank you, Deasia. What's the next one, Taylor? On to a 10. Stephen. 12. What's up next, guys?
15.5.
15.5. Next one?
20.5.
Next one?
22.
22. And the biggest one is?
25.5.
All right. Thank you for putting those directly underneath. It kind of helps you to keep your work nice and neat. Now I want you to label those 5 points. You don't have homework tonight, but this homework will be tomorrow night, okay? When you have that, you're not going to have it automatically written here, these 5 things, but just know these are the 5 things you want to write down, and you have to put them in that order. That helps us as we're plotting our points on the box and whisker plot. So I want you right now to try to see if you can possibly come up with what those 5 things are on your own. All right, let's see what you guys have come up with. What is my lower extreme? 7.5. Let's move on to the opposite of that, the upper extreme. What's the upper extreme? 25.5. Okay, if you didn't get that, erase your answer and fix it for me. The median. What does the median, what is it? It's the middle number or the middle value, which is 15.5. Okay, here's what I want you to do with that middle value. Because it's right there, we don't need that anymore. We figured it out. I want you to put an X on top of that. Don't scribble it out, just put an X. And here's why. It helps me to very easily see where the left or the lower half of the data is and where the upper half of the data is. So as you can see, it has been easily divided. Okay, so this right here is my lower half of the data. What's the median of that number? 10. Circle it. What is that 10 called? The lower quartile. All right, it is the median of the lower half, but it's called a lower quartile. So write that in there. What's the upper quartile, guys? 22. How many of you got all of those correct on your own? Excellent job. Now what do I have to draw? Let's put a number line down there at the bottom. All right, so my smallest or my lower extreme is a 7.5. I want to go just a little bit smaller than that. So what number should I go to?
70.
Let's go to a 5, okay? 70. Now, what's my biggest number?
25.5.
25.5. So I can't stop at a 25. So what's a nice rounded number I should stop at? 30, all right? We're going to go ahead and count by 5s. So fill in the points that you need on your number line. All right, once again, as I said, probably coming up with the increments on the number line is like the hardest thing. Now all you have to do is plot the 5 points that you had. Maddox, what's the lower extreme?
7.5.
Okay, so I'm going to put that 7.5 in there. Darcy, what's the lower quartile? 10. Remember, you're putting your dot, and then go ahead and stick that number underneath it. Give yourself enough space so that your work looks nice and neat. Mickey, what's the median? 15.5. Taylor, what's the next one I should plot? 22. That's my upper quartile. Last one, CJ.
Your upper extreme 25.5.
25.5. Good job. Okay, do you guys remember what line I should draw it through first? Which one? The 10, yes. What's that called?
It's not the lower quartile.
The lower quartile. Then think of the opposite, the upper quartile, and that median, and then go ahead and draw your box. Am I finished?
No.
What do I need?
Whiskers.
Whiskers. What do the whiskers go to? The lower extreme and the upper extreme. Okay? Then double check, make sure you have your box and you have your whiskers. And that is how you do the second example for the box and whisker plots. Any questions? All right, I want you to use your other piece of paper that you have right there and go ahead and fill this out for your homework assignment. There's just 9 problems tonight.